The 2025 coaching carousel is starting awfully early. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we'll get to the rest of the Sunbelt, what we didn't cover in yesterday's action. We'll do an early Week 4 preview as well. I love myself. I love me some coaching carousel. I really do. I don't like the firing part of it, usually. I don't like that at all. Sometimes it's coming and you can't do anything about it. The Fighting Will Halls. It is what it is. I'm a big fan of Will Hall, but it had to be done. But I love it. Last year, we had a very special case in this conference with Charles Huff leaving one school, winning a championship with that school, and taking another job with another school in the same conference. All right. To say that we got some engagement with that would be a severe understatement. But you could watch that ODU football game, and it was just Virginia Tech has nothing going for it. All right, this wasn't a handful of bad plays like App State had against Southern Miss, right? That may have changed the football game. They were overmatched, okay? It's one thing if my Syracuse Orange this week are overmatched at Clemson. It's disappointing. No one's getting fired, all right? But when Virginia Tech is overmatched by ODU, certainly from the point of view from Virginia Tech, that's not looking good, okay? Even if it's a close game, you're like, what's going on here? In year 4 of Brent Pry. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned this before. I thought Brent Pry was getting the Cajuns job before Billy Napier did. He has some connections down there. I thought he was getting it, and then all of a sudden, Napier kind of came out of nowhere. Side note. But we do enjoy the coaching carousel, okay? So it didn't take a super genius to see that Virginia Tech was going to be open. It got reported on Sunday. I guess he was let go on Monday. So Virginia Tech is open, all right? Well, who do you think a couple of years ago would have been first up for the Virginia Tech job? It would have been Curt Cignetti sitting at JMU. So, boom, what happens? Bob Chesney's name put in there for potential as a Virginia Tech head coach. Now, that's quite the climb, all right? He's been a head coach for a long time, a lot like Curt Cignetti, actually. And would go from Holy Cross, where he was coaching in 2023, to Virginia Tech in 2026. That's fast. Who knows? More than a couple people have put it out there. Chris Vanini, he put it out there. He listed John Summerall, who's going to be in every coaching carousel, Bob Chesney, Mike Shanahan, Dave Clawson, and others to watch. All right, Chris Vanini is The Athletic. He covers the G5. JMU Sports News reports that ESPN and CBS Sports both listed Bob Chesney as a projected Virginia Tech opening. Bruce Feldman from also The Athletic. Virginia Tech's had just one winning season the past 6 years. They're very good G5 coaches. Charles Huff, Ryan Silverfield, Alex Golish from South Florida, Bob Chesney. We expect the Hokies to consider. All right. And then he did a whole article. And the cover of the article, if you wouldn't believe it, would be Michael Vick. The problem is he has very little coaching experience. Do we need to go back and see because he did not get off to a good start in his first outing. Right? That's Norfolk State. Is that in the MEAC? Let's see here. They're 1-2. So they lost to Townsend 27-17. They beat Virginia State Trojans 34-31 in overtime. And they just got taken to the woodshed by Rutgers 60-10. All right. Obviously, Michael Vick would be a huge get for Virginia Tech. For those who don't remember or are too young to know, that's where Michael Vick went to college. All right, but he's got very little coaching experience, whereas Dion had a few years under his belt. Michael Vick's got 3 games. So I'm not sure if Virginia Tech is going to roll that dice right now, outside of maybe because I don't know if Michael Vick needs the money. I presume he doesn't need the money. He's doing this because he wants to, that he could take less money and you go get better coaches and pay more money for assistant coaches. All right, that would be one theory. And so Bob Chesney's name is listed there as well. Well, guess who reached out to me? And apparently, before I was covering Locked On Sunbelt and just covering the Cajuns, when the Cajuns played Marshall before Marshall was in the Sunbelt, and they got Levi Lewis in that ball game. And that was Mike Desimo's first ball game as a head coach for the Cajuns, and right now his only bowl victory. Apparently, there were vicious rumors back then that Charles Huff was on his way to Virginia Tech. Players were transferring to Virginia Tech from Marshall because that's what some people thought was going to happen. All right. So those are, I mean, that's years ago, right? Now we're talking when that was supposed to happen. But does he even need to win a championship at Southern Miss? You turn Southern Miss around from 1-11. You go bowling, you're in good shape. But what if he wins 8 or 9 ball games? You know, I didn't think that was possible. I'm still not sure it's possible. Although the Cajuns, let's be honest, the Cajuns, they're going to beat the Cajuns, right? The Cajuns at this moment in time are not particularly good. They got La Tech. That's not easy. Who's favored in that one, by the way? La Tech's at home. La Tech is a 3.5-point favorite. So, all right. So La Tech's off to a good start. But let's see what Southern Miss has just quickly. They get Louisiana Tech. Jackson State is no pushover. All right. They're at Georgia Southern. Take the over. They get the Cajuns at home in Lafayette. All right. Cajuns are not very good. They get Monroe at home. Should be a win. At Arkansas State is a toss-up. They get Texas State at home. That's got to be a toss-up. That game at South Alabama, toss-up. I mean, they could win all of those ball games, but they could very easily just lose them all as well. They're better than Monroe, so that should be a win. The only problem with Georgia Southern is it's going on the road. I don't think Georgia Southern's playing very well this year, but again, trying to win on the road is not easy. You do finish up with Troy at home. So they have a shot to win a handful of games, and the more they win, the more Charles Huff is going to be talked about because he's turning around a 1-11 program like that. All right. If that goes the way that it has been going so far. So be interesting. Even one of the saw on my timeline. If he's gone after 1 year, that means they played well, right? No one's hiring a 3-9 head football coach. You can't sell that to anybody, even if it is just you got to take time. No, they're going to see Charles Huff go 8-4, 9-3, win a bowl game, or play in a bowl game, or qualify for a bowl game, as the case may be. And say, why can't you turn Virginia Tech around in 1 year? That's what they're going to say. All right. So we shall see. All right. But I love myself some coaching carousel starting really early. Prem Fry wasn't the only one fired. Deshaun Foster was fired, and Nico, really tough situation, right? He had a good situation in Tennessee, got greedy, ended up in a bad situation at UCLA. I'm going to bet he's going to end up in another situation next year. He has not helped himself at all. I don't have a problem with these kids getting the money. I really don't. $8 million seems to be a lot. Would have worked out at Tennessee. You saw what happened. Joey Aguilar, I'm not even sure he was getting anything at UCLA. Now he's making 7 figures, and he's beloved at Tennessee. They did not lose that ball game because of Joey Aguilar, although he did have a couple interceptions. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about, or let's wrap up the Sun Belt week 3. We do have a couple of banged up quarterbacks. We'll do that after I tell you about Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, it's easy, and honestly, my favorite way to follow along with football. You can take, say, is Russell Wilson going to have over so many yards? Is Travis Kelce going to catch so many passes? That kind of thing. How many touchdown passes or rushing touchdowns would Lamar Jackson have? It is just that simple. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. I do appreciate the engagement. I really do. Again, I don't get anything on Twitter. You don't see a check mark. Or maybe you do see a check mark. I did pay for that a little bit. But I don't get anything for it, in terms of money for you guys engaging with me. I do appreciate that. And again, it doesn't really matter. All right. May have been a little fishing there because Southern Miss fans are like that. But AJ Swann threw 3 bad passes. All right. The third one, he was under pressure. The first one, he had a running back blocking somebody. He threw it flat-footed, just didn't think about it before he threw it. He kind of reacted, and that was an easy interception. And then the other one was, way out in front of Dubinion. That should have been an easy touchdown. Like, I'm not saying here's the difference, all right? The first and the third interceptions shouldn't have been thrown, right? Those were easy plays for the defensive players to make. The second one was a wide open touchdown. Nonetheless, do appreciate that turned into a pick six, but do appreciate the back and forth. Some fans a little bit more level-headed than others. All right, it is what it is. But Southern Miss off to a good start. AJ Swann banged up, apparently getting an MRI on Monday. I did not see any update following that information. Dow Loggins I mentioned that on the coaches Sunbelt teleconference. And so they're off this week. Boise State is next week. My mistake on yesterday's episode. But we'll see if he is ready to go for next week. All right. We don't know how seriously injured he was. Wasn't that serious because he was sitting there and he had ice on his leg. So anything more serious, he probably would have been taken inside and, tended to, but it couldn't have been that serious. So we'll see. A little bit more serious is Goose Crowder. He had a shoulder injury that apparently he had surgery on. He's going to be out for a little bit. So once again, Troy is down to their second string quarterback. Jared Parker does say that Crowder's going to be back. It may or may not be clavicle, collarbone surgery. So we'll see when he's expected back, but it's not going to be anytime soon. It does not help that Memphis took care of Troy as Goose just went 2 of 3, and then Tucker Kilcrease came in 10 of 29. I mean, that's a 2.2 yard average for 65 yards. He threw 1 touchdown. Again, with all these backup quarterbacks playing, the other team is just going to dare you to throw it. Just play 8 in the box or 7 or 8 in the box and go man to man. You see if you can throw it past me. All right, that's what I would do. I think Auburn only did it once against South Alabama, turned into a touchdown. But if South Alabama brought pressure on the play before, maybe they don't get to that. They let Jackson sit there for 3 to 4 seconds, picking them apart. And the offensive line held up. And first down, next play, touchdown. So Memphis beats Troy 28-7. We'll see how that goes for Troy. They're getting Buffalo on Saturday. Buffalo, they did beat Kent State 31-28. They've lost to Minnesota. They beat St. Francis. They had to come from behind to beat Kent State, and Kent State does have a win this year, but they didn't win at all last year. They're not very good, and Buffalo just slipped past them. Or that, I'll rephrase that. They weren't good last year. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've seen Kent State play. I just know they hadn't won a game last year, and now they've won this year, and they almost beat Buffalo. So we'll see if that has any effect on Troy. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt, week 4, or week 3, I should say, Georgia State gets their first win. They beat Murray State 37-21. They jumped out to that 14-0 lead. Little combination between the quarterbacks. TJ Finley, 11 out of 18, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Cameron Brown came in 9 of 11 for 101 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let's see, did they split that by halves? Because Finley was in there to begin with. Let's see here. Finley's in there in the third quarter. Let's see. They took Finley out. Again, I don't know if he got hurt, but they took him out and they went on a 10-play, 76-yard drive. Let's see if he got hurt. Incomplete. Does not appear that way. I don't know if he got hurt. But Cameron Brown came in there at 23-7, and they go up to win 37-30 or 21. So that's a nice win for Georgia State. Murray State's not very good FCS squad. Georgia State, 454 yards. You got to like that. They did give up 282 yards to Murray State. They also rushed for 166 yards, and this has got to end. This is killing Georgia State. 13 penalties for 132 yards. That is not good. And 3 turnovers. So it could have been much, much bigger of a blowout, but way too many penalties and way too many turnovers. Now, we'll see. They could be leaning to go towards Cameron Brown. All right. TJ Finley could redshirt and end up somewhere again next year. Elsewhere, Coastal Carolina takes it on the chin, 38-0. Not really close. Tad Hudson, 19-39, 172 yards, 2 interceptions. They ran for a grand total of 67 yards. It does appear that Coastal Carolina is going back. East Carolina had almost 500 yards of offense, 497 to Coastal Carolina's 239 yards. It is not going in the right direction for Tim Beck's squad. I think East Carolina is good. I don't think they're 38-0 good over Coastal Carolina, but that's what they did it as. So it was not very close. Cajuns getting, South Alabama getting Coastal Carolina. That's right. South Alabama getting Coastal Carolina. That needs to be a win for South Alabama. And I think that's about it. We did all the other games. I think we did all the other ball games. Quickly go over them. Auburn, South Alabama. South, put up a good fight against Auburn. Auburn wins 31-15. Cajuns put up no fight against Missouri, 52-10. They had 4 yards of passing offense. I'm not sure either one of their quarterbacks are Division I quarterbacks. Arkansas State got screwed. A couple of calls going the Big 12's way, called by Big 12 referees. Iowa State slips by Arkansas State 24-16. Memphis beats Troy 28-7. Marshall had a nice win. Again, we did that, I believe, yesterday. Carlos Del Rio Wilson with big numbers and a nice win for Marshall. Tony Gibson's first win. Talked about Old Dominion over Virginia Tech. Georgia Southern, they did get a win, 41-34. Quite the ball game, but we talked about that as well. We'll see if they can make it 2 in a row. Georgia State over Murray State, 37-21. We certainly talked about Southern Miss taking down App State, East Carolina over Coastal, and Arizona State beats Texas State. That's one of those games that spirals out of control. 3-3 ball game. Arizona State scores a touchdown, makes it 10-3. Texas State fumbles. Arizona State scores a touchdown, makes it 17-3. Texas State goes for it on 4th down on the Arizona State 35, doesn't get it. Arizona State tacks on a field goal. Boom, boom, boom. Ball game. No, that was the end of that one. All right. Okay, we'll come back and take a quick look at preview of week 4 in the Sun Belt. We'll do that right after I tell you about game time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. And if you're looking for tickets, and I think what is the biggest Sunbelt game of the week, it's JMU at Liberty. Tickets are scarce. You better go get them. They're around $100 a pop. All right. But those are the best prices you're going to find for JMU and Liberty. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right. So again, the big ball game to begin with is we do have a Sunbelt game. It's South Alabama, Coastal Carolina, but that should be easy. And actually, this should be easy. And you do have Vanderbilt, Georgia State. But it's JMU and Liberty, who I do believe signed a contract to play a bunch of ball games through like the next 2 decades. Liberty, not that great. They are 1-2. Again, we did talk about them a little bit. They beat Maine 28-7, battled Jacksonville State 34-24, and then only put up 13 points against Bowling Green. Ethan Vasco, the former Coastal Carolina quarterback, is their quarterback. And this is not the Jamie Chadwell high-powered offense that we saw with Grayson McCall. All right. It is flat out struggling. Against Maine, they put up 28 points. All right. And 21 was in the fourth quarter. They did have almost 400 yards of offense, but they also gave up 316 yards of offense to they gave up almost 316 yards of offense to Maine. Not almost, they did. So this really should be a relatively easy win for JMU. They've had a week off. We'll see if they keep on using the 2-quarterback system. They really use the 2-quarterback system. It'd be one thing if you switch them off every possession. They switch them off within the possession. That's crazy. Or I don't know about crazy, but it's certainly new. is one way of looking at it. All right. Cajuns getting Eastern Michigan. Cajuns all of a sudden a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Eastern Michigan's 0-3. They lost to Texas State 52-27. They lost to Long Island 58-23. They just lost to Kentucky down here 48-23. If the Cajuns can't pass the ball versus Eastern Michigan, they're not going to be able to pass the ball. All right. Long Island, let's see what Long Island did. Long Island passed the ball for 248 yards, ran it for 231. Again, it may just be about winning the game and just rushing the football. We'll see. But if you can't pass it against Eastern Michigan, if you can't pass it against Eastern Michigan, that's going to be a problem. All right. Let's see what else we got quickly here. For week 4 of the Sun Belt, South Alabama taking on Coastal Carolina. That is the only Sun Belt Conference game. South Alabama, 15.5-point favorite. You like taking the over because South Alabama's defense, although played pretty well against Auburn, I don't know if Coastal Carolina can score, at all. Bishop Davenport and South Alabama are pretty good. Kentrell Bullock, Anthony Eagers coming on, Devin Voisin. They're all really good. I would think South Alabama is going to win this one going away. All right, Troy taking on Buffalo, but Troy's got their backup quarterback going on. Buffalo is a 6.5-point favorite. Arkansas State's taking on Kennesaw State. Both teams are 1-2. This is not going to be an easy ball game. All right, this has letdown game written all over. You're coming from Arkansas to Iowa State to Kennesaw State. If you screw around, you're going to lose. Don't screw around. All right. Arkansas State, a 6.5-point favorite. Marshall at Middle Tennessee is favored by 2.5. That's interesting. But okay, Marshall's favored. Maybe they can win 2 in a row. Georgia Southern's getting Maine. They can make it 2 in a row, even up their record, and they should take care of the FCS Black Bears. Vanderbilt and Georgia State. Vanderbilt's really good. I mean, they're pretty good. They're 3-0. They're almost 27-point favorites against Georgia State. Obviously, Vanderbilt's going to be motivated for this football game, and they will not be overlooking Georgia State. We'll see if TJ Finley or Cameron Brown starts the game. Southern Miss taking on La Tech. It's a big opportunity for Southern Miss to go on the road, and La Tech hopefully joining the Sun Belt in 26. They're off to a good start. They beat Southeastern Louisiana 24-0, battled LSU 23-7, and the blew out New Mexico State 49-14. This is going to be a difficult game for Southern Miss, but they can go up there and beat them. All right, Texas State taking on Nichols. Should be a bounce-back game for the Bobcats. No spread just yet. And UTEP is 4.5-point favorites over Monroe. Monroe was off last week. Not going to be an easy game as well. All right. Monroe's got a shot to go out there and win, and it's not going to be an easy ball game. All right. It's a winnable ball game, but it is not necessarily going to be very, very easy. Okay. We are going to doing a crossover episode with App State. We'll see when we air it because the game's not till next week. So that's my fault. Did not hear back from the Sun Belt Player of the Week. Offensively, Colton Joseph. So we'll follow up again tomorrow. Ian Foster, your Defensive Player of the Week. Both, in this case, well-deserved. All right, obviously, is the case. So we will continue to do this. No games are early this week. Did I see they're all on Saturday, right? I didn't see anything early. I didn't miss one early. No, they are all on Saturday. All right. I'm working Saturday, but all these are mostly at night. To be honest with you, Troy and Buffalo are during the day, James Madison, Liberty during the day, and the Cajuns in Eastern Michigan are during the day. But they start at 3:30, so I'll be able to see, hopefully, the second half for most of those games. All right, so we will be all over it. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. We will continue to look ahead to week 4 for the rest of the week, and we'll see when we play that App State crossover episode with Locked On College Football's Spencer McLaughlin. It'll be sometime before the game, so stay tuned. It'll be either this week or sometime next week. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday.